Is there a general term for the items in a directory? I'm just curious if there's a standard computer term that encompasses everything in a directory, instead of always having to mention files and subdirectories/folders separately. So you could say, loop through all the terms in dir_1. And just to be clear, I'm looking for a singular term, as in my example sentence.
The POSIX reader documentation uses the word entry. The reader function shall return a pointer to a structure representing the directory entry at the current position in the directory stream specified by the argument dir, and position the directory stream at the next entry. It shall return a null pointer upon reaching the end of the directory stream. The structure dirent defined in the and lt, dirent.h and gt, header describes a directory entry.
File. At least in POSIX compliant systems. 3.164 File. An object that can be written to, or read from, or both. A file has certain attributes, including access permissions and type. File types include regular file, character special file, block special file, FIFO special file, symbolic link, socket, and directory. Other types of files may be supported by the implementation. Source. People saying files when they mean only regular files are not really POSIX compliant. Smile. You can learn what POSIX is from answers to this question. Various operating systems are POSIX compliant, fully or mostly, or not. Without going into details, this answer applies to Unix and Unix-like systems, including macOS, Linux, BSD, but not to Windows family in general.
There are good answers that propose files and entries. Go read them if you don't understand why those words fit, and remember that in POSIX file includes all types of inode, including directory, not just regular files. Directory entries, file names, are references to files, inodes. A file can have multiple names in different directories, link count and GT. 1. The actual file data/inode isn't stored in the directory containing a file name for it. But sane humans have no problem saying things like read a file that's in some directory. It would be needlessly pedantic to bother always making the distinction between a file, inode plus data, and the file names, directory entries that refer to it. Also note that directory entries in modern file systems often also store a type field, so programs like find don't need to stat to each file to check predicates like find type f, regular file, versus symlink or something, or to find entries that are directories themselves when recursing. See checking if a dir entry returned by reader as a directory, link or file. Dent and GT, d_type isn't showing the type on Stack Overflow. A path like foo/var or /a/b/foo/var is a string that ends with a file name, but can use directories to refer to a file name that's not in the current directory. Foo is a simple path and also a file name. But foo/var is the name of a file, and also a path. But you could argue semantics that it's not a file name. A path or path name is something you can pass to a system call like POSIX open2 or chdir2 or win32 open file. Your choice of terminology, file versus file name versus directory entry, will probably depend on context and what you're doing. For example, reading the contents or inode metadata involves the actual file. But just matching a glob expression against the name doesn't involve the file at all, just the file name, dir entry. Directory entry is most appropriate when actually looping on a function like reader3, or for example uselang to create a new directory entry referring to this file. When dealing with hard links, the term dir entry is usefully distinct from file, more so than file name. But name also works. for example a file with two names. More often, you'd write a shell script using variable names like c_files equals .c, or fn, for file name, is also a good local use variable name. Using entries equals .c would feel weird. Entries only feels right when talking about the process of looping over them to get file names, not for the resulting set of file names that match some filter.
Good question. I use contents as a term that encompasses both files and subfolders. For example, we need to copy all of the contents of that directory.
I have no questions.